Welcome back, you beautiful people, to the Real Collective Podcast. We're so happy to have you back again. As always, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, share this with someone who you think might like this type of conversation, and you can schedule an appointment with Kyle or I in the Calendly links below, as well as download the buyer guide or the seller guide or any other things that you'd like to do. Do so, make the comments, all the things. Kyle, my friend, how are you feeling this hot, hot Thursday afternoon?
It's crazy. And like it's supposed to swing another 20 degrees below tomorrow night.
That's
This
right.
is we are riding the wave. Riding the wave.
Yeah, it's
But
like we're surfing on the melted snow, which is the water.
Tuesday it was like, hey, we're opening the canal. And Friday afternoon, it's like, no, we're not.
Yeah,
And
I
by
mean,
Saturday morning, they'll be ready again.
yeah,
It'll be
yeah.
perfect.
I
It's
mean,
like interest rates, man. They're just like, it's great.
the outdoor rink in our neighborhood is like it's a big thing to try and like, hey, the city of Ottawa is giving you like a grant to keep the rink open, right? And so the city's like, you have to try and keep the rink open. Try and resuscitate the rink. Try and resuscitate the rink. If you want all of your grant money, you better work to try and get it back up and going. And it's just so frustrating when it's like, oh, it's dead now. Okay, back to working again. It's
Yeah.
work, man.
Yeah.
So it's yeah, like interest rates, like you said, that's a good segue. Tell us about interest rates, Kyle.
Oh, they're just still I did a meeting this week with a pile of realtors, and we're talking about some stuff, and that's what I said. I'm like, I just want off this ride, because this is what we're seeing in the fixed rate market. Everything's holding steady on the prime rate for now, but we've just seen so much volatility in the fixed rate market. It's just been wild. Like, it's dead there, they'll drop them 10% one day, they'll be up 7% the next day. Well, not 7%, but we're talking basis points. So 5 or 10, and then they're down again. And then something happens in the US or something happens here, and we're watching the bond market tank, but it hasn't gone low enough to change. Like, it's just all over the place. So it definitely is a scenario where you're kind of, eventually people just have to pick a lane. So they either want to ride out, they're going to take a fix, they're going to close on that, and they're going to ride it out, or they're going to take a variable and just see where it goes, and then do something in the future with that. So it's yeah, but I mean, it is what it is. You literally wake up daily going, I wonder what we're getting today. Let's see how it goes.
So what's the move? I mean, if someone's thinking about moving this springtime, what's the move? Do they lock in whatever rate they can get right now and then like flex with it as they desperately watch the bond market and say like, oh hey, let's lock in again? What's the move?
I think if I was going to I think the suggestions would be one, get your rate hold as soon as you can. If you're have anything happening in the next year, literally 12 months, get your rate hold for as soon as you can, for as long as you can. We're, typically 120 days. We're lucky enough. I'm lucky enough to be part of a pilot group that's working with BMO. BMO has come back into the broker channel, which is a big deal. Sounds super boring, but it's actually a big deal for us, because they were in, they're out, and now they're back, which is good because it's more competition for very niche products and specific market segment of bank. So that's good. They'll do a 130-day rate hold, which is pretty cool. And so that's first thing, because you can always rebook that rate. You can always rebook the best rate at the time. So if rates go up and you're coming towards the end, we do the math and say, hey, is it better to just pull the pin, right? Like, it's better to just do this now. Even if you got to pay a penalty, is it better to do it now? Not cool. Let's rebook it and keep going. If rates drop, same strategy. The end of that 120 days, are they lower? Yeah, cool. Well, let's take that and push it as close to your maturity as possible.
Right.
So that's how I would do that. If you're someone who just wants the certainty, no doubt, just go fixed and sleep well, right? The math will show that there's 3 years, 5 years, and there's going to be different suggestions on this. Um, my colleague that's in here with me, we don't argue, but we'll debate on what the best plan is,
Yeah.
because of just if you take a 5-year today, rates have to come versus a 3-year, which is higher in rate. Rates have to come down so low at the end of 3 years for you to be ahead by taking a 3-year versus a 5-year.
Yeah.
The question becomes not if they're going to be low, it's if they're going to be that low.
Right.
And that's where you're rolling the dice. So there's no gamble. There's no not a gamble in some way. There's always going to be uncertainty. And I personally, I would say if you can manage it for the short term, being 12 to 24 months, go variable if you can. If you can get yourself a variable rate, adjustable rate mortgage, so one that floats with prime, and you get a good discount, 50, 60, 75 points, maybe even a full 1% or more, because certain situations will allow for that. Ride that out. And then as things start to settle through 26, 27, 28, you can look back and see, okay, how low are the fixed? And you can flip into a fixed for free and then ride that for as long as you can. Because then you're getting the best of both worlds. You're getting flexibility and you're getting access to the lower rates and free to flip into those versus a fixed where you're going to lock in up here, you're going to see a rate down here, and when you make that jump down, you're going to pay a massive penalty.
I think people are so afraid of variable rates because of what's happened the last like 2 years that as much as you're like, hey, this is the right thing to do, a lot of people are gonna be like, no, thank you. I been there, done that. I'm out for variable rates, right? So a lot of people who wouldn't have done variable rates in the past did a variable rate in the last cycle and might be saying now like, no, I just want fixed. Give me that 5-year fix. Give me that. Let me sleep at night. You know.
And for sure there is, and it's that mindset. And the big thing is that I posted a video on my social the other day that was like, stop, like don't get caught into the should trap, right? You're gonna have all you're getting is opinions at the end of the day because none of us have a crystal ball. So you're trying to just weigh your options. If you can't sleep at night because of what's gone on, or you've seen what's gone on with the variable rates, and I am one of those people with the variable rate, then you're right. Don't take it. Just don't. That's a great option. Congratulations. If you're someone who is literally looking to do like to have the most flexible thing and has a thought process that things have to come down, then don't lock yourself into a fix because as soon as you do and rates come down, penalties go up. So you're going to be locked into that forever, like for that term. So you have to just know who you are and know your thing, and you're probably not wrong no matter what you do. And even today, people who are like, oh, I was on variable and it's like it was the worst idea. I debate that. I don't know if it was the worst idea. You know what? Because the thing is, on an adjustable rate, like I float with prime. My mortgage hasn't not gone down. It's kept pushing itself forward.
Hang on. Say that again. Your mortgage.
My mortgage has not gone down. It has gone down. Sorry. Yeah. It's gone down just like it would have. It's just been at a higher rate and it's forced me to payment. So again, people who took an adjustable rate mortgage like me, right? We're paying the price and have paid the price for the last 18 months. But like today, we're paying that every day. People who took a variable rate and took the fixed rate option, right? The TD people, RBC, CIBC, they said, oh, lucky us. Our payments haven't gone up. No, but all you've done is stack all your problem to the end of your maturity. So it's I'm getting kicked in the face today. You're gonna get kicked in the face in the future, and that's just different problems. So
just kicking the can, right? Like shift.
Kicking the can down the road. And that will be tougher. That's the solutions for those that specific sect of people. Those are going to be the most difficult ones to fix because of just depending on how they bought. If they took that variable rate because they needed to, or that adjustable rate because they needed to, they probably don't have the equity to cover what their losses are. And the majority of them have not put down the extra funds they needed to put down. And that's unfortunate. They're not right or wrong. That's just an unfortunate circumstance. So we'll have to see how those get played out.
And that's not going to be until like what, 2026, 2027, something like that?
It's gonna start. It'll start as early as 25, 26. I just talked to a client the other day, and there'll be one of my first 2025 kind of renewals that it's the first one I'm looking at like directly. I know they're coming, but this is one I'm looking at directly, and just to see what their payment's going to do if they were to like start today, or if rates don't change. If rates are the exact same today in 2 years, what their payments would look like. And that was an interesting exercise. And they're on fixed. They're the ones coming out of 1.79.
Ooh.
Coming into, yeah.
I've got a list here beside me of all of the people who bought a house in 2019, right? And so they're probably coming up for renewal in 2024. So I made a list. I said, okay, well, I'm gonna reach out to everybody and see, hey, you know what? Your 5 years is probably up. The rates are a little bit different now than they were back then. Let's have a talk, right? So that's on my to-do list. I like the idea of the line that I use is stop shooting all over yourself.
That's good. It's true.
Right?
Because it's so true. And I've never understood like I guess I do, but I just say it all the time. There is no right or wrong answer in this, because we're only making a decision based on the information we have today,
That's right.
and the quasi hope of what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So, and we're only going to know that in a couple years. Like
Yeah.
that's it. So, what's going to help you sleep at night tonight? And if you can keep making the payments, then I don't really know what the problem is. Someone's gonna say, "Oh yeah, but I paid all this extra interest." Yeah, you did, and you were always going to pay interest. Like if that bothers you so deeply, you shouldn't be borrowing money. There, I said should. Like, well, it's just true. Like, unfortunately, it's true, right? Because we just mathematically can't get low interest, low amortization, and low payments. It doesn't exist. Doesn't exist.
Unless the prices are 200,000.
Yeah, like we need to be making 2023 income on 2001
Yeah,
prices,
that's right.
right? Like my parents bought a place on the river in Manitic for $286,000 in 1999.
There you go.
I bought one 5 years later, 6 years later on the river, again down the road for 296.
Ooh-wee.
Like like that's 6 years later, and that's not a lot. That's not a massive run up in price,
No,
right?
no,
And it sold 3 years ago for double that.
sure, of course.
I wasn't there. I'd already got my piece and left, but
Yeah,
my buddy did. My buddy did well.
Lucky. So listen, I want to in the second half. I want to talk a little bit about collecting documents. Types of ownership of properties. And
Boring.
totally, yeah, right.
Oh man.
Boring and important.
Very
And
much so.
types of documents that you need to review, whether you're buying a condo, a POTL, which is a POTL, a parcel of tied land. One of the weirdest things to say in real estate.
Buying a puddle.
If you're getting a freehold with a common elements agreement. So we'll talk about that in the second half. But before that, I also wanted to finish a story that I started last time about a purchase that we were working on. And we bought it, and there was this whole story I told you about these folks who, put an offer in. They were told, no, you don't have your pre-approval letter yet. And they knew the sellers, right? And they had gone to see it without me and gone to look at the property before, and so they went and they did the inspection. The inspection came back. There were some things that were revealed. Anyways, they came back and like, hey, look, because we found this stuff in the inspection, I think we want to get this extra money off. I'm like, nah, that's not really enough to get extra money off the inspection, but we can try. So the long and the short of it is we negotiated $10,000 off the price before we even bought it. Post inspection, we tried for an extra $2,500 off the price. I didn't expect it to happen. It did not happen. And they decided to go with it anyway. So the deal firmed up. The price was the price. The home inspection revealed a few minor deficiencies, but really nothing to get all worked up about. And so they ultimately ended up buying it. That's the end of the story that we got probably 90% of the way through. So not that exciting. But just to, put a bow on everything. What about you? Any stories to finish or to open up from the last week or so before we take a quick break?
Any crazy ones? Nothing crazy, but I think actually overarching theme. Let's do that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Two completely different deals, but two common, I think, attitudes that came out of these two deals. One I'm still trying to finish. It should. The other one is done. Is people, buyers, owners, whatever, people's thought that you like because you think it's okay, the bank should just believe it's okay,
Right.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
And you can't let yourself get caught into that mentality because it's not that we can't fix these issues or challenges. It's just that it's going to make your experience so much worse because you're going to feel attacked about it, right? I had folks that we were working on a purchase, big long story, which would be it's a great story, but at the end of the day, they kept coming back to it shouldn't be like this. I shouldn't have to do this. This money's good, and like what I don't understand the problem. It didn't matter how many times I positioned it. They just felt that they shouldn't have been subject to these types of questions because they're honest, hardworking, well-off people that are doing nothing wrong. And technically, they are, sorry, literally, they are not. Technically, some of their stuff was not correct, right? Same thing, another client, they've been trying to save money. They're getting a separation, unfortunately, and they did their own separation agreement. They signed it, they drew it up, and they took it to a lawyer to have it notarized. But now, as we're wrapping everything up to pay out an X and all that stuff, the lender's like, hey, we need one side, we need the other side who's getting off title. We need them to have independent legal advice to know that we need to know they've talked to someone who says, hey, like legally, this is what's happening. Like you get it, right? Because right now it's just two people doing like a high five, like, yeah, we're out. And it's not enough. To them it is because they've been arguing about this shit for years, right? So they're finally just like, can we please just move on?
Yeah.
But your willingness to do something is not enough, right? Your thought of we're good, so why can't anybody else just deal with it? Like just let us be is not enough, right? People who you like, I have another client quickly who's like he's got cash and he lends it to his kids to do real estate deals,
Sure.
and the kids pay him back, and that's that. That's not good enough for the bank. No. And his attitude of it's my money, I can do what I want. It's true, you can. But when that money gets tied into a different deal, that's not your money anymore. That's right. Like it is. But they want paperwork to say, where is all that? Like, how much meth are you selling? Right? Like it's a joke. But that's the thought you have to have. If I gave you this piece of paper that said, I make this much money, would you lend me $600,000 based on that? Because that's what you're asking them to do. Yeah. So if you can't pass that test on yourself, like your own, they won't, and they'll be worse than you. Yeah. So anyways, overarching theme there. But yeah, don't get caught in it should be like this, because it isn't, just to be clear.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. Let's take a quick break. I'll come back with the boring stuff. If you don't want to watch the rest of it, completely understand.
But you should watch it. It's important. It
is important and boring.
Importantly boring.
Really selling it here. All right,
it's great.
So we'll catch you on the flip side.
This episode of the Real Collective podcast is brought to you by Real Collective. Real Collective brings together best-in-class real estate agents and collective experts in the field to deliver the best possible service to our clients. We govern ourselves with honesty, open-mindedness, and compassion. With diverse skill sets, our agents are able to better serve a wide array of clients, including first-time buyers, first-time sellers, transferees, estate sales, investors, and rural, vacation, and luxury properties. Authenticity and transparency are pillars of our process, which allows us to put our clients at the center of everything we do. Our years of experience and knowledge allow us to deliver prestigious service and optimal results. If you are interested in buying or selling your home, contact us today at realcollective.ca.
Welcome back, you beautiful people, to the second half of the Real Collective podcast, where it gets real collective and podcasty. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, share this with someone you think might like this conversation, and we'll just jump right into it. In terms of the story that you were telling, Kyle, I have absolutely had a similar conversation with a seller recently saying like, hey, everything's fine. What the heck? Why do you need all this stuff? Why does anybody need all this stuff to give to the bank? I never needed this stuff. What's the big deal? Da, 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 da. And then people are like, well, no, I need this stuff. I've got to give this stuff. And, so overcoming people's, lack of knowledge is absolutely something that we find ourselves doing often. But what we wanted to talk about in the second half here is about the three different, there's I think 4 different types of ownership, but we're going to talk about 3 of them, and specifically why you need to sort of get this, what documents you need to review. So it's the one that most people know is if you're buying a condo, you need to order the status certificate and have that status certificate reviewed. We've talked about that on the podcast. I've talked about it in previous iterations of the podcast. Having a lawyer review that status certificate is super important. Don't just rely on your agent to review it. Rely on someone who reviews status certificates on a regular basis. The condo company can take up to 10 days, calendar days, not business days, to provide that document to you. They're legally allowed to take that long from the date of request, and payment typically costs $100 to pay for that status certificate. And you can pay for it on a rush, which would come in, I think, 3 or 4 days for double, for $200. Not plus tax, inclusive of tax. But there's a whole condominium act that governs how all of this works. So that's pretty straightforward. Now, if you get into buying a freehold property that has a common elements agreement, you're going to want to review that common elements agreement before you, as a part of your due diligence. Okay.
What would that be? What would the common element be?
Let's say, for example, I've sold one over on McLeod. There's an infill build that they built a property out of shipping containers right across from the gas station just north of the Queensway.
Really?
Yeah, corner of Bronson and McLeod. So they built 3 of them. And I sold 2 of them, and one of them even twice. So they built these houses out of shipping containers, and they sort of stacked them, and it looks kind of cool. Now, the common element is they all share a parking lot, and they're all responsible for the roofs on top. So the 3 people who live in those houses are subject to a common elements agreement. So that's a for example. It has to do with how do we maintain the roof and how do we maintain the parking in the back.
So is it a smaller version of a condo corporation? Like, there's no condo corporation, there's probably no bank account. It's just 3 people sitting in the driveway having a beer saying, how are we going to do this?
Yeah, and then they put it on paper. And then if you're the new person buying in, you're like, yes, I agree to what you've agreed. I agree to what you've agreed to.
Is this a different conversation or podcast? Say, like, what happens if I don't?
Not even. You can't not. If you're buying the property, you have to agree to what's in the common agreement, a common elements agreement.
Oh, okay. So it's a foregone conclusion.
Yeah. If you don't like it, then you don't buy it. That's it. There's no, you're not negotiating it. Now, once you move in, if you hey, I'm an owner now. I'm 1/3. Maybe you convince the other person and you change what's in that. Then that can live on. But you move in and you get what you get. That's it.
Right. Okay.
So
that makes sense. Yeah.
So the last one is if you're buying a pottle. We talked about pottles before. Fun to say, hard to explain, even harder to understand. You're buying what's called a parcel of tied land. And what that means is that the land is tied to all of the different people who are around. And you're going to say, well, how is that different from the common elements agreement? On what I just explained. Normally what it is, and you don't find a lot of them in Ottawa, okay, you own let's say you're one out of 14, and there's 7 townhouses on each side, and in the middle there's a road, and that road is sort of like a dead end road, and underneath the road is a connected sewer that's connected back to the city drain. Well, you all own, each person who's in there owns 1/14 of that road and that sewer. So you all own collectively that parcel of tied land. So that land is tied to all 14 of those properties. Okay. So that's what that is. And there will be what's called, so first of all, you need to use a different agreement of purchase and sale. You buy a freehold home, you use Form 100. You buy a condominium owned property, you use Form 101. You use a parcel of tied land. I wish I knew the number of the form. It's that rare that I don't know. I can look it up and find, it's probably 101 or 102 or 103 or something like that.
102.1.
Right.
That's it.
The edge. Am I right? Did I get it?
Yep. I'm saying the same thing in my head. I'm like, oh, that didn't make sense, but it made sense. All right.
Yeah. But yeah, you're right on the edge. So anyways, parcel of tied land, what you get when you order is not a stylus certificate. It's not a common elements agreement. It is an estoppel certificate. So you review that estoppel certificate, and it's a little bit different. What's in there is different than a condo because it's not, you own your roof, you own your windows, you own your foundation, you own all of the stuff, you own what's in your backyard. It's different than a condo, right? With a condo, you don't own what's on the outside of your walls, right? You don't own your roof.
Yeah.
You're not responsible to repair your roof or your windows or your door or your front steps or anything like that.
Walls in are yours. Walls out is everybody's.
Correct. But with a parcel of tied land, it's different. You own your backyard. You own your roof, your windows, yada, yada, yada. But if the sewer system starts to deteriorate in 40 years, you're responsible for 1/14 of that. If you need to repave the shared cul-de-sac that you all use to access your own individual driveways, which branch off that, you own 1/14 of that repaving.
So that's interesting because like if you don't own the sewer out front of your house if you're on a detached home.
Correct.
Like if that sewer happens, that's the city's problem.
You own all the way up to where you connect to the city sewer. And we had a client deal with that, right? So you've got your drain. Your drain goes out and then it connects to the city sewer. But a lot of the times, the city's trees will be planted on the city side, right? But your trees will be planted on your side. And if your tree has roots and those roots get down and fuck up your pipes, those pipes are on you.
Yeah, so it's your responsibility from the house to the hookup.
That's right.
Huh. I didn't even think about that. Yeah. And now that you're talking about this pothole, I believe I've done one. I think I've done one.
I think I've done one out of like 500.
And it's only connecting because my brain is just listening to what you're saying, and then there was a deal that popped into my head that said, yeah. And I think I remember saying, like, this is weird. Like there was
super
this
weird.
Is just weird to me, and it was not a big deal. It just, I'm like, what? It was something like that. It was a driveway. That's what it was. It was something like you described. For sure.
So they teach us this in real estate school, and then we never use it. Like I think in Ottawa, if there's 100% of houses, 25% of them are condos, 75% of them are residentially owned, and like 0.001% of them are potholes.
Yeah.
It's like ultra rare. But still have to cover it because you know what? You never know. You might find the absolute perfect place for you and your family, and there it is.
Well, we do see it on our side too, mostly with again, it's rarer, but it happens, is the mobile homes and leased land.
Yeah.
Or even just leased land in general. They do it a lot more. See a lot more of that out in a place like BC, maybe Alberta, but BC for sure, just because there's so much native owned land, and they've branched out and let people develop, but you don't own the land. So you have like a 99-year lease or something like that. And what again, when you talk about people saying, well, it shouldn't be like that, right? Okay, but it is, and only certain lenders will take that risk because I think if I bring it way, I say way down or keep it super high level, in theory, right? The bank wants to own the brick and the dirt.
That's right.
And when you don't own the dirt, right, effectively someone else has some type of power to say, get this brick out of here.
Right.
And now the bank owns a brick that doesn't have a home and therefore is worthless.
That's right.
Other than the brick that it is.
Yeah.
That I'm right in that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's how it is. So, and that's why only certain lenders will do it, because people, again, it's that thought of why is it like that? Because the bank doesn't want to inherit a problem. And although it's unlikely to happen, it's their problem if that shit happens. It's your problem too, but it's more theirs if they own it still and have the lien against it.
Yeah. So
Huddle.
Muddle on the puddle. All right, listen.
That's it.
I hope you guys found that very informative and super fun. As always, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, share this with someone who you think might like this type of conversation, or if they're considering buying a poddle and you've never even heard of it, share this with them. As always, you can also download the podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. You can download the buyer or seller guides below, schedule an appointment with Kyle or I in the Calendly links below. And until next time, keep it real.
Collective.